He was just 16, shot dead, no weapon found. But when his mother fought back, the system finally cracked. Before we begin this heart-wrenching story, hit that subscribe button and join us as we uncover tales the world often tries to bury. Anthony Weber wasn't supposed to be a headline, at least not like this. 16 years old, just another boy in South Los Angeles, caught between the endless roar of sirens and the hum of streetlights that flickered on every corner. He wasn't a saint, but he wasn't a criminal either. He was just Anthony. To his mom, Monica, he was the boy who stayed up late sketching sneakers he dreamed of designing one day. To his little sister, Nia, he was the hero who walked her home after school, so she wouldn't have to face the neighborhood bullies. But to the system, Anthony was just another statistic waiting to happen. That night, the city was quiet in a way that made every sound louder. Monica had begged him not to go out. "Please, Anthony, it's late. I don't like when you're out there," she said, her voice tight with worry. He rolled his eyes but kissed her on the cheek. "I'll be back, Ma. Just a quick walk." But Anthony never made it back home. According to witnesses, Anthony was walking through an alley, hands tucked in his hoodie pocket, music blasting from his earbuds. Police had been responding to a suspicious person call, just vague enough to mean anything. When they saw Anthony, they claimed he matched the description. From there, everything spiraled. "Stop! Hands where I can see them!" one officer barked. Startled, Anthony froze, headphones dangling from his ears. "I said hands up." He raised his hands, palms trembling. "I ain't do nothing." But their hands were already on their weapons. Seconds later, shots rang out, loud, deafening, echoing through the alley. Anthony collapsed onto the pavement, clutching his chest. Blood pooled beneath him. The officers stood over him, guns drawn, breathing heavy. When backup arrived, neighbors had already gathered, phones recording. Someone screamed, "Why'd you shoot him? He's just a kid. Where's the weapon?" Another officer muttered, scanning the area. "They searched him. Nothing." They searched the alley. Still nothing. There was no weapon. Anthony Weber was unarmed. Monica's scream shattered the night when she got the call. She arrived at the scene barefoot, tears streaming down her face, begging officers to let her see her son. They kept her back with cold professionalism. "Ma'am, please step behind the tape. He's a baby. That's my baby. Let me hold him," she wailed, her knees buckling beneath her. Videos of that moment would later go viral. The world would see a mother's heartbreak in real time. But for Monica, none of that mattered. She just wanted her son back. The department moved quickly to protect itself. The story changed overnight. Suspect appeared armed. Suspect reached for waistband. Officers feared for their lives. They painted Anthony as a threat, plastering his mugshot from a school suspension on every news channel instead of the smiling photos Monica had given them. Detective Reynolds, the man leading the investigation, had been on the force for 20 years. To him, this was just another case to wrap up neatly. He wasn't interested in truth. He was interested in keeping the city calm. But what Reynolds didn't expect was Monica. Monica wasn't the type to back down. She marched straight to City Hall the next morning, holding a framed photo of Anthony in his Sunday best. "This is my son," she said to the cameras. "He wasn't a criminal. He wasn't a threat. He was a child. And you're not going to bury his name like you buried him." Community members rallied behind her. Protesters filled the streets chanting, "Justice for Anthony." The police department doubled down, claiming they had credible intel of gang activity. But then, something broke the case wide open: surveillance footage. A local shop owner handed Monica's lawyer a grainy video from a security camera. The footage showed Anthony walking calmly, hands visible. There was no weapon, no sudden movement, just a terrified teenager raising his hands before being gunned down. When the footage leaked online, the city erupted. News stations couldn't spin it anymore. Detective Reynolds watched in fury as the narrative crumbled. "Shut that video down," he barked at his team. But it was too late. Hashtags spread across social media. Celebrities spoke out, and pressure mounted. If stories like this move you, subscribe today to Wealth and Wounds for more truths the world tries to silence. Months later, the officers stood trial, and Monica sat in the front row every day, clutching her son's photo. The defense team painted Anthony as a threatening gang member, cherry-picking his social media posts and school records. But Monica's lawyer, a young attorney named Rachel Kim, refused to let them rewrite history. Anthony was a child. Rachel told the jury, her voice steady. He was unarmed. He raised his hands, and they executed him in cold blood. The video doesn't lie. Every day, Monica sat stoically, tears rolling down her face as she watched her son's final moments replayed in slow motion for the jury. On the seventh day of trial, Rachel called Detective Reynolds to the stand. Under oath, he was confident, smug even. "Yes, I believe the officers acted within policy," he said. Rachel played the surveillance footage again, zooming in on Anthony's empty hands. "Detective Reynolds," Rachel asked calmly, "can you point to the weapon in this footage?" He shifted uncomfortably. "Well, it's not visible in this." "Because there was no weapon, correct?" Silence. The courtroom buzzed. Rachel pressed on. "And yet, your department issued a statement claiming the suspect appeared armed. Who authorized that statement?" Reynolds' jaw tightened. I did." Gasps filled the room. The truth was unraveling. After weeks of testimony, the jury delivered a stunning verdict. Guilty. The officers were convicted of manslaughter, and Reynolds was forced to resign. Monica wept as the judge read the sentence. For once, it felt like justice wasn't just a word. The courtroom erupted in cheers, and outside, thousands chanted Anthony's name. For the first time, Monica smiled. Not because justice brought her son back, but because his story had sparked something bigger. Months later, the city created Anthony's Law, banning deceptive police reports and mandating body cameras for all officers. Monica became a fierce advocate for police reform, speaking at rallies and schools across the country. But behind the celebration, a shadow loomed. Detective Reynolds, humiliated and disgraced, had disappeared from the public eye. Or so Monica thought. One evening, months after the trial, Monica found a letter in her mailbox with no return address. Inside was a single piece of paper. "This isn't over." No signature, just a grainy photo of her standing outside her home. Monica's blood ran cold. Justice may have been served in the courtroom, but on the streets, the war was just beginning.
Monica Weber thought the nightmare had ended. The trial was over. The officers who killed her son were behind bars. Anthony's Law had been passed, and her boy's name was becoming a symbol of justice. She had done the impossible. She'd beaten the system. But victory came with shadows. The first letter arrived late one evening. It was thin, with no return address, and inside was only one message. "This isn't over." Attached to it was a grainy photo of Monica standing outside her own home, holding her groceries. Whoever sent it was watching her. At first, she tried to brush it off. "It's probably just some troll," she told her daughter, Nia, forcing a smile. But at night, she couldn't sleep. Every sound outside made her jump. Every car that slowed near her house sent her heart racing. 2 weeks later, the threats escalated. Another letter arrived. This time, it read, "You took everything from me. Now I'll take everything from you." There was no signature, but Monica didn't need one. Detective Reynolds, the disgraced former detective who had covered up Anthony's killing, who had been exposed in front of the entire world, he had vanished after the trial. No one knew where he was. But Monica knew now. He was watching. She went to the police. "He's threatening me," she told them, handing over the letters. The officer at the desk glanced at them and shrugged. "Ma'am, without a signature or evidence, there's not much we can do." Her stomach turned. "So, I have to wait until he shows up at my door?" The officer didn't answer. That night, Monica received a call from a private number. "Mrs. Weber? My name's David Harper. I used to work internal affairs until Reynolds had me fired." "Why are you calling me?" Monica asked cautiously. "Because I know what he's capable of. And if he's targeting you, you're in danger. Real danger." David explained that Reynolds had ties to a shadowy network of officers who'd been covering for each other for years. Anthony's case had been a crack in their armor, and now Reynolds wanted revenge, not just on Monica, but on anyone who exposed him. "Do you have proof?" Monica asked. I have more than proof, David said. But you need to see it for yourself. They agreed to meet in a diner at the edge of town. David was a tall man in his late 40s, his eyes darting around the room as if expecting to be followed. He slid a manila envelope across the table. Everything I know is in here. Bank transfers, emails, records of cover-ups. Reynolds isn't acting alone. He has friends in high places. Monica's hands trembled as she opened the envelope. Inside were pages of evidence, documents linking Reynolds to corrupt officers, illegal payments, and even cover-ups of other shootings. This is enough to bring him down, she whispered. David nodded grimly. That's why I called you. But now that you have it, you're a target too. That night, Monica returned home, shaken but determined. She tucked the envelope under her bed and told Nia to lock every window and door. At 2 a.m., she woke to a noise outside, a crunch of footsteps on gravel. She peeked through the window and froze. A black SUV idled across the street. Her phone buzzed. A message flashed across the screen. You should have left it alone. Suddenly, the SUV's headlights flicked off. Monica grabbed Nia and ran to the back of the house. She called 911, whispering frantically, There's someone outside. Please send help. By the time officers arrived, the SUV was gone. But the fear wasn't. Rachel Kim, the young attorney who'd won Anthony's case, became Monica's lifeline again. Together with David Harper, they decided to take the evidence public. Every time a story like Anthony's gets buried, it gives men like Reynolds power, Rachel said. We won't let that happen again. But just as they were preparing to leak the documents, David disappeared. Monica called him repeatedly, but his phone went straight to voicemail. Then, 2 days later, she received a chilling package in the mail, David's ID badge, covered in red paint. It wasn't paint. If this story has you on edge, subscribe to Wealth and Wounds right now. You won't believe what's coming next. Monica went into hiding, bouncing between motels with her daughter. Rachel worked tirelessly to get media outlets to publish the evidence, but every time they tried, their servers crashed or the files vanished. Someone was erasing the trail. Then late one night, Monica got another message. We can end this. Meet me where it started. The location, the alley where Anthony was shot. Rachel begged her not to go. It's a trap, Monica. But Monica was done running. If I don't face him, he'll never stop. The alley was dark, just as it had been the night Anthony died. Monica stood trembling, clutching a flashlight, her heart pounding. Reynolds, she shouted into the shadows. I know you're here. A voice echoed back, smooth and cold. You should have stayed quiet, Monica. He stepped out of the darkness, gun in hand. His face was gaunt, his eyes filled with rage. You humiliated me, he hissed. You think you won? You think any of this changes anything? The system doesn't change. Monica took a step back. You killed my son, and you lied about it. I did what I had to do, he sneered. And now I'll do it again. Suddenly, headlights flooded the alley. SWAT officers poured in, guns drawn. Drop your weapon, Reynolds. Rachel stepped out from behind one of the cars, holding a megaphone. We recorded everything. Reynolds spun around, panic flashing across his face. Monica realized Rachel had been recording the whole confrontation. Reynolds lunged toward her, but before he could fire, he was tackled to the ground. As they cuffed him, he shouted, You don't know who you're messing with. This goes way higher than me. Rachel turned to Monica, breathless. We got him. He's done. But Monica couldn't shake the feeling that Reynolds wasn't lying. Days later, Monica sat at home, clutching Nia tightly. The footage of Reynolds' arrest had gone viral. The nation was calling Monica a hero. But that night, she received one more package. Inside was a simple note. You took out a pawn. Now the king is coming. There was no return address. Just a photo of Monica speaking at Anthony's funeral with a red X over her face. Her heart sank. The battle wasn't over. It was only beginning. If this story gripped you, like, comment, share, and subscribe to Wealth and Wounds because part 2 is coming and the conspiracy runs deeper than you think.